Hi, it's me again. Thank you for joining my channel. So, when you're rebuilding your life, self-trust doesn't actually look like confidence. Self-trust, it looks like how you move when things are still unclear. I want to talk about what self-trust actually looks like in my day to day, not how it feels, but like how it actually shows up. So, like, if you're in an experience, I just want to share mine and maybe that will help you. So one of the things is it's basically like how I maybe over decide or make lots of decision. Um, Reopening many different choices. So trying to stick to a minimum of two choices and not having an abundance of choices. Um, and the constant needing to reevaluate. Um, I don't do that. I don't like, I do it, I understand why I'm doing it, and then I just kind of just feel grounded in knowing that I made the best decision. And also now I make fewer decisions and I let them land. So if I have a lot of things that I need to do, I try to make only two decisions at a time. And for me, what ends up happening is that I have no immediate like second guessing. Um, and I give my nervous system time to adjust. So, for example, me moving here, I tried not to make too many decisions all in one. So, like, I didn't know where I was going to live. Like, um, I had two goals in mind and I tried to stay on it, which was moving to a new job and focusing on my career, right? And then as I arrived, then other things came up, but I just tried not to think about 15,000 things at one time to just keep me grounded. Um, and one thing that shifted for me is not needing instant certainty. I find that self-trust for me is allowing decisions to settle instead of interrogating them. So it's like making a decision to move to Hong Kong, for example, and not sitting and being like, oh, did I make the right choice? Do I think this was good? Oh my God, this was so challenging. Oh, maybe I should have taken the job in Abu Dhabi, or should I have stayed in Bangkok? It's like, now I made this decision. Even if I'm having challenges, I'm just allowing them to settle rather than sitting and wondering, like, oh my gosh, was this a good idea? And another way that self-trust shows up is that I explain myself less. This has been so good. And I've been making an effort to apply this in other aspects of my life. But if you grew up in an environment where, your elders make all the decisions for you and, you want to please people, so sometimes finding self-trust can be a hard thing because you're waiting for someone to tell you, yes, you made a really good decision. And I said it in one of the other videos that we generally don't celebrate being in a space of figuring something out. So we're always craving some level of certainty. We're always craving that need um to explain like, oh, and I've been there. Like, oh, I took the job here because A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And rather than explaining myself less, or I should say, in addition to explaining myself less, I notice when I feel the urge to explain. I notice when maybe I feel I need to explain to a certain person. And whenever I do that, I catch myself mid-sentence. And like I said in the video yesterday, I talk about this is my life. And sometimes it's okay if someone may not understand. I do think people that love and care about you generally want to know why you're making the decisions that you're making. And I understand why they would probably ask questions. But sometimes you don't have to. Um, and then making a choice not to like over context because I have found that when I trust myself, I don't need everyone to understand my choices in real time. It doesn't also mean that like you need to be defensive. It just means that like it's a part of life. Just like how you may not understand why someone is doing something, um, it's just the idea of being okay that the most important person that should understand a choice is you. Um, and it's so important and this has been my experience, is letting discomfort exist without turning it into a problem. Um, Seeing discomfort as information, um, not having the need to immediately like fix it. And this one is big for me because I love to fix a problem. I love problem solving, so learning to just take a deep breath and being like, it's okay. And not pathologizing um the feeling, like making it feel so real. Okay, so pathologizes, um, because discomfort doesn't necessarily mean that something is wrong. It just means that something is coming, something is new. It can mean that you're just adjusting. I'm so sorry. I think it's the pollution actually. Um, so as I am rebuilding, I understand that there are new routines, there's a new identity, this is a new environment. So self-trust looks like staying present instead of rushing myself out of the feeling. And this was actually something that was so helpful. Um, I did this counseling and I wish I could remember the name of the type of counseling I did, but if I remember, I will share it in the chat. Um, it was based in New York and they're in major cities. But what I loved about these counseling sessions is called RC, which is reevaluative counseling. And in the group, whenever someone would be triggered by something, and I realized this was a habit I had. So maybe I'd be triggered or annoyed by something, and then I would want to just kind of switch gears and go on to something. And the moderator, or, if you have a co-counselor, the co-counselor would say, wait, what's happening right there? Like, we want to stay right there. Like, what exactly are you experiencing? So, as a result of that counseling, I started to learn, even when it's uncomfortable, how to sit. in feelings, and then once again, I know a lot of things are reference to childhood, the way you're raised, because that has a big impact on like who you are, how you navigate this earth plane. Um, if talking about feelings or having feelings was not something that was normal, then it's very natural that when you feel pain, agony, you just want to go to the next feeling. And I know that because that was me, you know? I just want to fix it. I want to help it. And learning how to pause and being like, okay, this feels really uncomfortable, or this feels very painful, or this feels annoying. I felt very powerful actually, now that I can just own it. Um, so those are just some of the things about self-trust. Um, and one of the major things for me is like, excuse me, choosing consistency over intensity. It's kind of like me having this YouTube channel. This is me deciding to get back onto my walking. Um, And for me, what that looks like is smaller moves, steady rhythm. Um, it's like I don't need intensity to prove I'm moving forward anymore. So if you're in some level of change, like you don't have to make a bunch of drastic things to show that you're moving. Um, and that's given me so much peace, it's given me so much peace because to me, consistency is quieter. But it builds trust. It really does. It builds trust within yourself. So whether that's waking up and meditating every morning, moving your body, having some amazing breakfast or cooking your meals, it's that buildup, you know? And when I make a mistake, I just course correct. Okay. I course correct. It doesn't mean that I failed. It just like, okay, this is not working. So when something doesn't work now, I adjust and I don't make it mean that I was wrong. It's like, oops, I shouldn't have done that. Oops, I shouldn't have said that. And I love this because it removes shame. Um, Seeing things as data. So I read a book called A Course in Miracles every morning, and there was a lesson in there just talking about, like seeing everything as information. And it allows me to move light in the world because when I'm seeing something as information, I'm not as attached to it, you know? I still have feelings and things get me upset, but it's more like, for example, I'll give you an example. I'm staying in this Airbnb before I transition to my apartment. And I didn't realize that it was going to be a walk up for me. Like there was a elevator, but it didn't go to the floor that I'm staying on. And I guess that's something I should have asked, right? And if you know anything about Hong Kong, these walk-ups are no joke. And mind you, I have luggage. And the other day, I felt like I could have cried because you should have seen me just pulling up this luggage, right? And it was quite frustrating, but I made it happen clearly. But the information for me was one, the importance of asking extra questions and what happens when I don't. But then the other thing is that I love ease. I don't mind paying for ease. I don't mind paying more to be in a hotel where I'm not climbing upstairs. And to me, I'm like, oh, I don't need to have shame that maybe certain things, maybe someone might see me as having expensive taste, but like, I'm not trying to mull up many stairs, you know? And then thirdly, seeing it as information that the life that I want for myself is abundant in all aspects. Even if it's something like never having to take my luggage upstairs. Like I know it might sound silly, but information is like it's giving me an opportunity to see, oh, I don't want this again. I don't want this for myself again. I don't like this. But if I did not have that experience, I don't know what my basis um outside of just saying, oh, I like nice hotels. You know what I mean? Um, so I'll take it what you may with that. And as it connects, like updating instead of spiraling. So that's been my recent update. Like that is not what I want. That's not what I want for my life. Um, Self-trust lets me change direction without turning on myself. That's essentially what it's doing. It's like none of this, more of this. Um, so living abroad, makes self-trust more visible because there's less familiar structure. So I do know that I have a lot more self-trust than maybe someone else at home because I'm so accustomed to being in these countries. My sincere apologies, but something is in the air and I feel it. So, just for some context, I'm so sorry that I'm all over the place. My throat actually is hurting. And just for context, sorry, I'm an expat and a well-being coach, and a lot of my work is supporting people through transitions abroad, especially when they are rebuilding and learning how to trust themselves again. So when I talk about self-trust, I'm talking about like my lived behavior and not just trying to motivate you. I am using this recent journey and like what I'm growing and what I'm understanding as I rebuild my life after 40. So if you're rebuilding and self-trust feels quieter than you expected, look at how you're moving, not how certain you feel. That's usually where self-trust shows up first. It has been my pleasure once again, my throat, but thank you again for just joining me on this journey of rebuilding of 40. I hope that you're taking some of these tips, and I will see you again.